Today we have a very special guest. His name is Joel Perso, and I can't wait for him to share the training or the presentation that he has for us all. And I'll tee it up this way and share why I asked Joel to be on. About a month ago now, I went to a small conference called the Agent to CEO Conference. Agent to CEO Conference. It was in Cleveland, Ohio, 2 day conference put on by the Honey Badger Group, Al Stasek and Jay Kinder, and Joel presented there. And I would say there was so much good information, and I have pages of notes from it. But the thing that resonated with me the most was what Joel shared. And the presentation is built around the 5 models of a profitable business as a real estate agent. And what was most impactful for me is getting clarity around which model I wanted to proactively build. And I've been in this business for years. And it was like the first time where I saw it broken down in a way that just made perfect sense to me and just helped me with that clarity and knowing proactively, this is the model I'm going to build. And I want to talk to and work with and partner with agents that want to do that as well. And so I think this is perfect timing for this topic as well, which we were talking about a little bit before we went live, which is this is the time of year that many of you are starting to think about or work on your plan for 2026. And without being crystal clear on the model that you want to build and dominate and grow, it's really hard to understand what to focus on and what you want to do. So I would highly encourage you all to take a bunch of notes. We will have time for Q&A at the end. So please, in the comments or in the chat, if you're in the Zoom room with us, you can use the chat. If you're watching the live stream in our Facebook group, you can comment, or you can go to the link in the description in that live stream and just pop on over to the Zoom room so you can interact in the chat. And my hope is for all of you, you get clarity around, look, this is the model that I'm going to build. I know that these are the pros and these are the cons because there's no perfect business model. I love Alex Hormozy, and he says often all businesses have shit. There's no perfect business model, and certainly no perfect business model in what we do, but picking the one that makes the most sense and then persevering through the crap is a way to win, or the way to win. Joel, you should be able to share your screen and take us through this. I'm excited. I hope everyone else is excited, and I hope you're all ready to take some notes as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. You guys see this okay?
Looks good.
All right. I put the notes in the chat, and I've got a giveaway for you guys that kind of goes into a little more depth later. But
Great.
This presentation, it fit into the Agent to CEO event in a very specific way. And so Agent to CEO is all about right things, right order, we talk about. So we spend time talking about your vision for your business. Where do you want to go? Now we move into talking about our business model. What's the vehicle that you're going to build to get you there? Then we start to talk about our strategies for achieving those goals. And then we move all the way down into building the team and what is execution going to look like. So this presentation assumes that you have some idea of where you want to go with your business. You have some clarity on the vision. If you don't, I'd really recommend everybody read a book called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. He was a coach of mine. He was the guy who helped take 1-800-GOT-JUNK from 5 million to 100 million. But the idea behind Vivid Vision is spending time getting really clear on what you want your life and business to look like 3 years from now. If you have clarity on where you want to go, we can build it, right? If you don't have clarity, how are we going to know what to build? We see a lot of teams, Josh, I'm sure team leaders like this. You built something either because you thought you should, or because everybody else was doing it, or because you never really thought about it, and you find out that you built something that you didn't want and that's not fulfilling. Yeah. I hired 30 agents and I found out that I hate dealing with agents on a daily basis. Or I never hired any agents and I found out that I can't get out, I can't even take a vacation because I've got no support, and I should have been hiring agents this whole time. You get to build whatever you want, which is great. That's an awesome part about business, but we have to design it. So I'm going to talk through. I'll give you guys a little introduction on kind of me and why I've been geeking out on business models for the last 10 years. And then we'll talk through the five. And Josh said have some time for Q&A. So
Beautiful. And I'm sorry, I didn't really tee you up, let people know about you. I was just so excited about the topic and the content, and I got so much value from it that I didn't spend much time edifying you. But
that's perfect. We haven't known each other too long anyway.
yeah, yeah. Now, I think, did you say that you dropped the notes in the chat?
Yeah, I put did that show up? I put oh, it's
I'm
right
not
there.
seeing
Didn't
it.
hit
There we
enter.
go. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks,
And if
guys.
you're watching this after the fact and you don't see the notes, drop a comment or just DM me or even text me, and I'll get you the notes, the slide deck here.
Awesome. So my background is real estate and brokerage operations. So I've been in and around the real estate industry for the last 15 years. I started as a transaction coordinator. That was my very first job on a small team, 5 agents, one admin, and me as a TC. And so I was the only organized one, the only analytical one. I just naturally started absorbing more and more kind of responsibilities on the operations side, on the marketing side, on the financial side. So as that team grew, I grew with it and ended up founding an independent brokerage in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with my first team leader. We grew that to just over 400 transactions. And it was my first exposure to how to run a business, my first exposure to leadership. I made just about every mistake that was possible to make from an operational side, from a financial side, from a leadership side. So a tremendous learning curve, but it's also the time that I really fell in love with real estate. Love working with real estate agents, love working with real estate teams. So I'm real estate in my heart from day one. After that brokerage, I exited, turned the whole thing over to my partner, and I went to help build VRX Media Group, which was a media and marketing company. So think your Matterport tours, drone videos, your virtual staging, that kind of stuff. We started in Milwaukee and we grew out 50 markets over the 4 years. Had almost 200 by the end, photographers and staff members. That company was acquired by Zillow in 2022 for in the 8 figures. And then the last few years spent building out the leadership team at Sphere Rocket, which is a virtual assistant company. So we switched to a recurring revenue model there. I hired all the senior leadership, grew that from 4 million to 10 million in revenue in 3 years. We were on the Inc. 5000 list a few times. And I found myself at the end of 2024 saying, all right, we're ready for this next round of growth in Sphere Rocket, and I'm just not excited about it anymore. I know what it's going to take. It's going to be a big lift and it's going to be a lot of hours. And I said, I think it's time to step away. I've got a young son. I want to spend more time with him. So I stepped away at the end of 2024, took a couple months off, and then I started Growth Centric. And Growth Centric is a fractional leadership agency. So typically 7-figure teams who need some higher level execution. They need a head of operations, but they also need to be reinvesting in their growth. And you can't afford to take $200,000 to hire a real COO in your business. Fractional is a great option. So I come into teams, help them execute on their most important priorities. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's how I got to agent to CEO in Cleveland and how Josh and I met. That's a little bit about me. I started Growth Centric with kind of 2 founding principles behind it. One is that the world needs entrepreneurs. I don't think it's overstating it to say that entrepreneurship is the hope of the world. I think it's the hope of our economy. I think it's the hope of innovation. I think it's the hope of creating great jobs in opposition to the darker sides of corporate America. And the other thing, having been an employee for so much of my career, I believe that people deserve to work for great companies. So I spend a lot of my time creating resources, processes, systems about what does it mean to make a great company. So much of what it means to create a great company is having clarity on what you're doing. And so this presentation is really one of those things that is required in order to make a great company, is having clarity on your vision, having clarity on your model. Then we can get into strategy, into building the team, and then into actually getting to work on selling. So the great part about business is that you get to choose. You get to do whatever you want in this business. But the hard part about business is that you have to choose. You can't coast. You can't let somebody else choose for you. You can't follow somebody where you don't really know why they chose their model and you say, oh, I'll just choose that model too because he's doing it. You have to choose. You have to design your business. It's a really important business principle that organizations behave the way that they're designed, not the way that they're intended. When we ask this question, how is your organization going to function? How's it going to behave? A lot of people say, oh, we have our core values and our purpose statement. And that's super important, right? How your people are going to behave is going to be a function of your core values, but how your business is going to behave, how the organization behaves is how it's designed. Think about a mountain bike versus a race bike and how they're designed and how they're going to function is based on how they're designed, and your business is the same way. So the kind of right things, right order here is we're going to choose a business model frame, and that's what we're going to talk about today is the 5 business model frames. Then there's a tool that's been around for a long time in the business world called the business model canvas, and there's kind of 9 questions to ask. And so if you just Google business model canvas, you'll find it. That's not something I came up with, but we're going to choose our frame. We apply the business model canvas, then we determine our strategy, then we design the team. So we design the team in order to execute the strategy according to our business model that's going to help us pursue our vision. So when we're talking about frames, these are just some examples that you guys will all understand. We have subscription models like a Netflix or a Spotify. We've got marketplace or platform models, Uber, Airbnb, Etsy, bringing together buyers and sellers. Freemium models like a Dropbox, we've got a free version and then an upgrade into premium. Franchises, obviously McDonald's, tons of franchise models out there. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with the business model frame. It's not going to tell us the specifics of our strategy, but it's going to give us a frame around what are we building in our business. So I came up with 5. A couple really important points there. I'm not saying that there could not be another model other than these 5. I'm not saying that every single team out there is going to fit neatly into one of these 5. What I am saying is that from working with hundreds of teams over the years, almost everything fits pretty cleanly into one of these 5. We're not talking about solo agents, and we're not talking about big brokerages. We're talking about if you as a real estate agent are trying to build a business for yourself. That's what we're talking about here. The second thing that's really important to note is this isn't gospel, right? There are teams that succeed in every one of these models, and there are teams that fail in every one of these models. There are weaknesses inherent in all of these models that can be overcome. So if you see this and you say, Joel, I know a team that's actually really profitable using that model, definitely, right? There are exceptions to these. What I'm trying to share with you guys is the trends and the forces at play in these models that you're going to be battling against or moving with when you choose this. But again, to get to what Josh said, the important part here is clarity of what you're building. The worst thing you can do in this business is build something and then find out that you don't like what you built. So have the time invested in getting clarity. So we're going to run through these.
This
5.
is a wonderful. I don't mean to interrupt you, Joel, but I just have to.
Please.
I just want to share. This is a wonderful frame for this, and this is from someone in our industry that many of you may know the name, Sharon Srivatsa, and the frame is this: when people are building a business, too often it's when you're thinking about what to make for dinner, you open up the fridge and you look at what's in there and you're like, what can we make from what's in here, versus thinking about what you want for dinner and then go and get the ingredients to make the thing that you actually want. So often that's how we look at our business. What do I have in the fridge and what can I do with that, versus thinking about what do I actually want for dinner and go get that, or get the ingredients, or just go get that thing. So I don't know. I thought that was a cool frame that made sense off of what you were sharing.
I love that. That's spot on. That's a great example. So I'm going to share a few pieces in each of these. We'll talk about what the actual structure of the model is. We'll talk about where some of the classic pieces of leverage fit in, where we're using AI, where virtual assistants might fit in. Talk about profitability and freedom. And that's the core matrix that I created here for this, is a matrix of profitability and freedom. High profitability, low profitability, high freedom, low freedom. And again, these are trends that we see. These are the tendencies in these models, not the gospel. And then really important here, we're talking about the exit strategy in each of these. This is an area in our industry that's been filled with a lot of nonsense over the last 20 years. When I got into this business 15 years ago, it was build a team because then you could sell your team one day. We pretty quickly figured out that nobody's buying the average residential real estate team, right? So what's your exit strategy? Then sometimes we said, okay, now we're going to do the revenue share models. That's going to be my exit strategy. And if you're at one of those models, I still have my broker's license at EXP. 95% of agents aren't doing any form of agent attraction or recruiting. So that's not going to be their exit strategy. So what's going to be the real exit strategy in your business to think through with all these? First model is what I call the ATM, or the cash machine model. This is a model where you are the licensee, you are doing every deal yourself, you're the team leader, one licensee doing all transactions. You're going to get leverage from using either office staff or virtual assistants to help with your marketing, your TC. You can leverage AI to become more efficient. You can get freelancers for support. The goal here is that you are going to do as many transactions as humanly possible, and you're creating a cash machine with this business. So your profitability is going to be extremely high, but your freedom is going to be very low in this model because you're still doing every deal in this model. So very high profitability, but very low freedom. It's hard to ever step away. And the risks here is if something happens to you, the business stops. If you get sick, if you get injured, if there's a reason why you can't do the deal, then the deal doesn't happen. So there's that trade-off on the risk side here. And then the exit strategy with this model is you're using the cash generated from this model to buy assets that are going to get you to freedom. So you're buying real estate, you're buying securities, you're investing. You're probably not going to have enough time freedom to generate other businesses, run other businesses. It's difficult in this model to spend a lot of time building a revenue share organization because, again, you're doing every deal and you can get really leveraged, but you're still going to be face to face with the clients. You're still going to be negotiating the problems. You're still going to be getting everything to the closing table. So you can make an incredible amount of money. Being an agent and running this model, there's not a lot of opportunities that exist in the world where you can make as much money as you can in this model for relative simplicity and relative low cost to start up. A couple $100 to take your real estate course and $1,000 for your dues, and now you can start a business that can generate you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the ATM model, this is a great model for people who I don't want to manage a big team. I don't want to spend my days working with other real estate agents. I have a number in mind that I know I need to hit from an asset or from a passive income perspective, and I'm willing to pay the price of really getting after it for the next 5 to 10 years while I build up those assets that are going to get me to freedom. So this is obviously not a business that anybody's going to buy. There's no path to freedom through acquisition here because it all depends on you. And if you're gone, the business is gone. So again, it's a great model. Think through the pros and cons. Pros and cons, again, incredibly high profitability. You can make a lot of money. The cons, it falls apart without you. The other danger in this model is if you don't focus on acquiring the assets that are going to get you to freedom, this can become a lifestyle business really easily. And as you're making more and more money, if you're spending more, your lifestyle's kind of creeping up along with your income, then there is no path to freedom in this. So you have to be disciplined to hitting your net worth and your asset goals. Otherwise, you'll be a very highly paid and live an incredible life, but not ever be able to step away from it. So we see people who've been really successful for a long time, but they're pushing 75 years old, still showing houses because they didn't turn their cash machine into a freedom machine. So that's the first one. And then I made this matrix here, and this will all be in the giveaway I have for you guys at the end too. So don't worry about screenshots or anything. But it looks like we're blocked up here. Let me move that off to the side.
We see your slide deck. I don't think we're seeing anything else.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So profitability versus freedom matrix. So this model, high profitability, but low freedom on the ATM model. So second one here is what I call leveraged models. And there's a few different things that fit into this. The key differentiator between the ATM model and the leverage model is that there's additional licensees involved in the leverage model, but not traditional buyer's agents or listing agents. So that might look like a production partner where you do the deals and then you you do the appointments, and then hand off the client for the production partner to show houses and get to the closing table. It could look like just a showing agent. So you're getting additional leverage in these models through licensees, but still not bringing on the traditional buyer's agents or listing agents. So the leverage here, again, a mix of in-person assistants and then licensed teammates. VAs can be really effective in these models. Still incredibly high profitability, still fairly low freedom because you're still involved in every deal. Even though you're giving away more and more of the duties in these leveraged models, you're still involved in every transaction. So freedom is relatively low, but you got more time freedom than you do in the ATM model. So the exit strategy here, it's still primarily going to be asset acquisition, but because of the leverage you've created in this model, you have enough freedom to maybe add one additional revenue source. So that could be revenue share, that could be an affiliate income, a JV with a mortgage or a title company, something like that. It's not a full-on starting another business, but you've got enough time freedom because of the leverage that you can start to generate an additional source of revenue. So again, these are still not businesses that are acquisition targets because it still is heavily dependent on you. Some of the same weaknesses. You've got a little bit more kind of cushion because of the licensees on your team that in a pinch, somebody can do licensed work for you, that you can step away. You can have people covering obviously showings or appointments for you while you're on vacation. So you get a little bit more freedom here, but because you're still central to every deal, we're not moving to freedom within the business. We're using the business as a path to get to freedom. So those are the leverage models. Something I've seen that's been a big trend over the last couple of years is, and showing agents are certainly nothing new, but I've seen a lot of teams move to that production partner model where it's a licensed assistant who is a small base salary and a small percentage, 5 to 10% of the transaction. Team leader does the appointment, signs up the listing or signs up the buyer, and then hands it off to production partner, and production partner does everything else all the way through closing. So can be a really effective model. Difficult to find a great production partner. Usually that's somebody who's young and hungry and willing to learn at your feet for a couple of years in exchange for making a little bit less money. But it's a great model to think about if you want something more freedom than the ATM model, but you still don't want to build a traditional team. Can be some really great models here. We're seeing services like Xiaomi pop up where you can have people from other teams or other brokerages even show houses for you. That can fit into a leveraged model here. So you can put something together where you can get more freedom and maybe even some more location freedom than the ATM models, but certainly less than some of the other ones here. So still pretty high profitability here, but still fairly low freedom here. So next one, traditional team model. And traditional team, kind of, this is the red book, the millionaire real estate agent model that a lot of us ran or are running. There's kind of two versions of this. So the differentiator here between leveraged models and traditional team is in the traditional team, you've got other agents who are doing their own deals. Now, you've got either buyer's agents, listing agents, however you want to structure it. But you've got other agents doing their own deals in a traditional team. So two versions here, in production or out of production. So in production tends to be very high profit, but still low freedom because you're in production doing your own deals. When you step out of production, we tend to see, again, there are exceptions to this certainly, especially in higher price point markets, but the overwhelming majority of when you step out of production, profit suffers, but you get a ton of freedom. So out of production, lower profit, but much higher freedom. Almost everybody who steps out of production to work on something else. And so the fact that profitability suffers a little bit is okay because we're working on something else. So the exit strategy here is ancillary businesses. So we've got JVs or outright ownership in mortgage, in title, property management, in home services, because especially when you're starting to step out of production, you have time to invest in these other businesses. They can become really valuable sources of additional income. And some of these businesses can have more traditional acquisition. So property management that can show stable doors under management and stable income, lower turnover, that can be a traditional acquisition target as well. The important part here with these ancillary businesses, and this is going to be true for all of the models here and following, is that when you control client acquisition, you have a tremendous amount of leverage to monetize that client. Whether that's getting vendor income through MSAs with your mortgage and title partners, doing JVs with them, or outright owning the businesses. If you control client acquisition, you can really call the shots, and that can become an incredibly powerful driver in your business because that one client can become a mortgage client, a title client. If you own home services businesses, there's opportunities there for junk removal or moving companies, all of these things. So controlling client acquisition is really valuable. And in traditional teams, and then in the following models, we're talking about now a lot of clients. We're seeing traditional teams doing hundreds of transactions. That's hundreds of opportunities to get multiple pieces of the pie from one client. And certainly, again, not in an exploitative way by any means, but they need a mortgage. We want to do a great job and get them a great mortgage. They need title. We want to do a great job with that. So you being involved in those ancillary businesses makes a lot of sense. So that's the best exit strategy here is we're going to have multiple businesses, multiple streams of income. And again, either those become valuable in and of themselves, or we're still looking at asset acquisition. So traditional team, if you're in production, can be high profitability, lower freedom. If you're out of production again, tends to be high freedom, but lower profitability. So next one, teamerage. So this is basically growing a brokerage within a brokerage, essentially. You're technically a team, but you're functioning more like a traditional brokerage. You just happen to be at another brokerage. So the structure here is it's just about headcount. We're going to recruit as many agents as possible. We're seeing teams running this model getting to 1,000, 2,000 transactions a year or higher with hundreds of agents. Once you're scaled up, this can be a tricky one to grow, but once you're scaled up, this is the only model that has high profitability and high freedom built in. So you have to create a model where the average agent who's only going to do 5 deals a year doesn't cost you money. That agent is still profitable. So we're not adding the same type of value that we're adding to a traditional team. You're not spending one-on-one coaching time with every agent. You're investing your time and effort and resources into your maybe top 20% of your agents. But it's all about headcount here. And we build it in a way that, again, if we have an agent who's doing 5 deals a year, that's okay. That's still profitable. And our path to thousands of transactions is going to be piecing together hundreds of these typically a little bit lower producing agents, as opposed to most traditional teams are really focused on agent productivity. So agent productivity, not a major focus here, just absolute headcount. And we know that if we recruit more and more agents, that we'll find the good producers, and every once in a while we'll find the great producers, and we'll get those. But we're building this business on the backs of the average agent and recruiting as many of them as possible. So again, once scaled, we start to take advantage of economies of scale in our expenses. And again, you can do this wrong. If you build it in a way that the average agent isn't profitable for you, then there's not a path to high freedom, high profitability. But it's one of the only models where you can get both once it's scaled up to a big enough size. And then the exit strategy here, the ancillary businesses, again, if we control client acquisition, and now we're talking about thousands of transactions, now that's thousands of opportunities to get additional income from our mortgage, from our title, from our property management. But then there's real acquisition potential in this model. If it's scaled, if it's systematized, it's not super dependent on you as the owner, and you have a strong brand. These are the kinds of real estate teams that actually get acquired in the 2020s. The average traditional team, nobody's buying them. But when you've got a powerful brand and you have enough scale, they become powerful acquisition targets because they can be, again, really profitable. So if you're looking to sell a business, this would be the model that you want to think about. But it takes getting up to a sizable scale. It takes having good systems, takes not relying on you, and takes having a powerful brand in your market. And that might be the most important piece, is that brand in the market. Think Barbara Corcoran selling her New York real estate team, which was not that big for the amount that she sold it for, but they had an incredible brand there. So that's the teamerage model. Again, has the potential to be high profit, high freedom, where most of the other ones don't. And then last one here is the hybrid model. So I almost didn't include this because it can be really similar to the teamerage model. The reason I included it is I'm seeing it happen more and more. I'm seeing a lot of very large, very successful teams doing some version of this. So it's basically where you have a traditional team embedded within a teamerage. We saw a lot of this start to happen before kind of the rise of EXP, where people wanted to have a place for their agents who outgrew their team to go. And so they built this hybrid model. We're seeing it happen again now lately, where being on the team, whether we call that the leads team or the traditional team or the production team, isn't the right fit for everybody, or sometimes people outgrow that. We still want to have a place for them where they can stay in our organization. So traditional team within the teamerage. That can be formal. Okay, we actually have this dedicated team. Or what we're seeing more and more happen is on these really large teams, I think 50 agents and above, the team leader is going to spend their resources, their time, their energy on the top 10 or 20% of agents. So it'll function like its own team, even if it's not clearly delineated as its own team. So we're deeply investing in our top producers, but we're also able to profit from our mass agent base. So we have the option and possibility to be really high profitability, but also high freedom here as well. Part of that will depend again on, is the team leader in production or not. But the economies of scale we can get will benefit both sides, the traditional team and the teamerage that are together. So the exit strategy, same as the teamerage, the ancillary businesses and acquisition potential. But that acquisition or getting a good valuation in that acquisition is still at risk if the business is still really dependent on the team leader for production. So that's the hybrid model. and then put all of them together here. So our ATM model or cash machine, our leveraged models, traditional teamerage, and hybrid. A lot of times we'll see somebody who started off in an ATM model kind of naturally grow into a leveraged model and then grow into a traditional team. You're not going to naturally grow into a teamerage or a hybrid model. That's something that you have to do really intentionally. So if you have a traditional team and you want to do a teamerage, you're going to have to make some changes in your model, and you're going to have to really focus on doing some different things. For a teamerage and a hybrid, the agent becomes your customer, not the buyer or the seller. And so you have to think about, how are we attracting and retaining our agent talent? How are we investing in them? So on the big models, the teamerage, the hybrid, the agent becomes your customer, not the buyer or the seller. So we got them all plotted out here just to help with the visual. And then this is a piece that we can get into, Josh, or we can stop for Q&A. But this is in the giveaway I have for you guys,
Yeah.
which is what I think are going to be some major trends on the 2030 real estate team and how it might affect some of the business models. So that all goes.
We're really good on time, and we don't
Okay.
have a ton of questions right now. If you do have questions, please drop them in the chat. But I think this would help even more with helping folks get clarity, looking at some of these trends, maybe decide, if they can't decide which of those five does make the most sense, this might help give them some clarity or some things to think through to get that clarity.
Yeah, you bet. The caveat here, obviously, no crystal ball. Things can and have changed in a hurry in our industry. But these are things that I'm either starting to see now that I think are going to continue, or that I have some pretty good reasons to think are going to be major trends in the business world, but particularly in real estate. So the first one, lean leadership teams, and then fractional leadership. So lean leadership teams, and what I mean by that is fewer executives, fewer layers of middle management. This will mostly affect large traditional teams, teamerages, or the brokerages that many of us work for, where we're going to see consolidation between C-suite, where your CFO and COO are going to be combined into one position, where a head of sales and head of marketing might be combined into a chief revenue officer, something like that. And the reason I think that is because of some of the future trends that are happening, virtual assistants, AI. Headcount is going to be lower across most of our businesses. There's going to be less management burden for a lot of our leaders, and so we're going to need fewer leaders. It's also going to give models that used to struggle with profitability the opportunity to be much more profitable, because we'll have lower payroll with leaner leadership teams. And then fractional. So this is what I'm doing right now, but fractional CFOs, chief financial officers, that's been a pretty common thing in the business world. We're starting to see more and more fractional leadership in other executive areas. And again, the same thing, where we're going to be able to get so much done with virtual assistants, with AI, but we're still going to need, at times, high level leadership, high level strategy, and high level execution. So instead of having to pay a full-time executive, we're going to see a lot more fractional leadership in businesses, because we don't need full-time and we don't need to pay for full-time. So instead of paying 200 grand a year for a really top-notch COO, you can pay me $3,000 a month to come into your team and help you execute on your most important priorities. So we're going to see the rise of fractional, because we're going to be able to be so leveraged in our businesses between our technology, our AI, our virtual assistants, things like that. The next trend, and obviously this isn't anything new to be talking about culture, but I think the culture in your business and your company is going to be one of the major differentiators and one of the major competitive advantages that you have going into 2030 as a team. The experience is going to be more important than ever for our agents and for our clients as well. There's going to be people doing really great things with AI, but we also know there's going to be people doing a lot of garbage with AI. And so people are going to be really hungry for a great experience, because there's going to be so much noise out there, so much clutter out there, and so many bad experiences out there by people trying to shortcut things. So the culture in your organization is going to be more important than ever. And again, and maybe it becomes one of the few real competitive advantages that you have when you're trying to recruit agents and grow your team. No surprise here, AI everything, right? Anything that can be done by AI is going to be done by AI, and then we're probably going to figure out what's the right balance. So usually with new technologies like this, we go too far first, and then we settle into where it's going to end up. So between now and the end of the decade, AI everything. We're going to have AI. Some of this we have already, right? But AI cold callers, AI prospecting, we've got AI texting already. We're going to have AI recruiting. We're going to have, obviously, the marketing side is going to get better and better. And then at some point, there will probably be a backlash. And we're going to say, we want to be face to face with our real estate agent again. One of the great parts about our industry right now is I think we're better protected to disruption from AI than any other industry because the clients are going to want to have that personal relationship with you. They're going to want to sit across the table again, talk to you, build trust, build rapport. But AI, everything will be the trend.
And I would say, Joel, I'll just double tap
Yeah.
on that, not just clients, but also agents, right? So leveraging AI to create
Yeah.
more opportunities for conversation and relationship and building that makes a ton of sense, but it can't replace either of those things. It
Yeah.
won't replace the fact that a client who is trusting you with a multiple $100,000 transaction and an agent entrusting their goals and dreams and so forth, they're not going to just rely solely on a AI generated text conversation to make that decision.
Yeah. Spot on. Jeff Bezos has this awesome quote where he says that people always ask me what's going to change over the next 10 years, but a better question is what's not going to change over the next 10
Yeah.
years. And
Yeah.
so for Amazon, how they built their business is based on what's not going to change. Are people ever going to want to have slower delivery? No, that's not going to change. Are people ever going to want to have fewer options to shop on Amazon? That's not going to change. Are people ever going to want to have worse pricing? No. So they built their whole business on things that are not going to change. People are going to want to have variety, low prices, and fast delivery. And so they've done everything with that. So what does that mean for real estate? What's not going to change because of AI? Again, the importance of getting face to face with people and having that relationship and trust. I don't think that's going to change. I think that the what's not going to change, the best marketer is usually still going to win in real estate. And the way we market might change, but the best marketer is probably still going to win. I don't think that's going to change. I think it's going to be a relationship driven and trust driven business. I don't think that's going to change. So when we think about AI, I think a valuable way to think about it is how do I use AI to empower me to be better at the things that aren't going to change? But obviously, we could all go down AI rabbit holes all day.
Yeah.
Next trend that we're seeing is niche down or scale up. So when I got into real estate, it was a really common thing to say, we're going to buy every Zillow zip code in our market. We're not going to really have any specialization at all. And that's what we did on my team for a long time. I think more and more the people playing in the middle are going to really struggle. You're going to have to find a niche, whether that's a geographic niche, whether that's an industry niche, a hobby niche. You're going to have to find something that you're known for, and that's going to be a path to success for a lot of agents. The other option is we're going to see people continuing to scale up these larger and larger teams and compete that way. We just saw Kyle Whistle and Dan Beer combine their teams, create one of the biggest teams in the country. I think we're going to see more of that kind of stuff. But the way for the average agent, the average team to win, I think is going to be niche down. What are you known for as an agent? Are you known for dominating an area? Are you known for working with a type of client? Are you known for being involved in certain organizations? I think that's the path. Home services and ancillary businesses. Again, the ancillary business trend we're already seeing, it's become easier and easier to do JVs or set up franchises for mortgage and title. You used to have to be a pretty big team for that to work. Now it's easy. I have a client right now who's setting up a title franchise with HomeLight, and it's incredibly easy. They're doing all the work. We're just going to start sending them business, but she's going to start monetizing title business. So it's becoming very easy. And then home services, there are millions of Main Street businesses owned by baby boomers who want to retire and either can't retire or don't know that they could sell their business. The kids don't want the business. There's going to be an incredible opportunity for agents and teams to get into the home services space because of this void that's going to be created when all these boomer businesses either shut down or get acquired by real estate agents who want to get into that space as well. And again, controlling client acquisition. If we've got 1,000 past clients from the last 10 years, that's 1,000 people who know and trust us, who are going to use our electrician instead of the one that the private equity firm bought up and jacked up prices. And then consolidation and broker value. And so consolidation, meaning we're seeing that happen on the macro level with Redfin. Rocket, big moves at CoStars. Zillow's going to be continuing to make moves, so we're going to see that consolidation. We'll see it on the team side too. Whistle Beer is a good example, but I think we'll see that even on the smaller scale. Teams getting together. Can we do something a little bit bigger together than we could apart? Can we compete better when we combine? So I think we'll see that consolidation. And then something I think is going to be really exciting is broker value. When I got into the business again 15 years ago, the reason that everybody was starting teams and then everybody was going independent is because none of the big brokerages were offering any real value for what they were charging. And we saw a big shift to, okay, now brokers understood that they have to compete on value now to retain these teams because it's so easy to go independent. I think we're going to see that on steroids, where brokers are going to have to compete to who can add the most value to be growing their brokerages. And it's going to be an exciting time to be a real estate agent, I think, because there's going to be such a focus on how much value can a brokerage provide so that they can recruit and retain. So those are some of the trends that I see coming. I think that's all. Oh, this doesn't really fit in this presentation. It was left over from agent to CEO, but I made this 9-box of a skill and value matrix for how to think about building a team or building your organization. You can look through that in the giveaway. So here's the giveaway for you guys. Scan the QR code. It won't ask for a phone number. I'm not going to call you. It's just an email delivery of, I put together a white paper on this presentation, plus going a little bit more into the trends, a little bit more into kind of the AI and VA focus that I think we're going to see that might affect these things. So mostly what we talked about today, but just a little bit more in depth. And I'll get that sent out to you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel. Mike says, hey, Josh, he has to bounce and he's asking for the items, which we'll get Mike to you. But the reason why I wanted to share, he had great things to say, great ideas, great presentation. Thank you. I could not agree more. What questions or points of clarification or anything, thoughts around these models, the trends, etc.? Tamara says AI will only amplify you, not replace you. Right, 100%. The agents that figure out how to either themselves be more productive or help their A players be more productive, that's the win, is the increase in production and productivity. Debbie, yes, I can get you connected with Joel for sure. Who here, since we don't have questions, I'm curious, of the 5 models, which of those most resonates with you right now? And the answer right now might be different than after you really take some time to digest and go back through this. But right now, which model, and you could answer it one of 2 ways, which model are you either mindlessly pursuing, meaning like you didn't make an intentional decision, but that's the model you're chasing, or which one of those, after seeing them broken down that way, do you think is what makes the most sense? Could you, Joel, if you don't mind, could you put the summary one with the 5 there again? So there's the ATM, the cash machine. That's you being the rainmaker and the deal doer, etc. Leveraged is using and leveraging, not using, leveraging or partnering with, I guess leveraging is the right word, but whether they be licensed, assistant, showing agent. What was that phrase that you had? I loved it in there. It was showing agent.
Production partner.
Production partner. I love that. I love that. I don't even remember that from the first time seeing that production partner thing. Like that just doesn't that sound, it sounds great. Alliteration. I try to use alliteration anytime I can. But also when you're talking to an agent about being a production partner, doesn't that sound way cooler than a showing agent? Come on. That is just like beautiful.
Yeah. I first learned about that from Bic DeCaro and Brittany Stewart, who are both EXP team leaders. So they're both running that model. That's where I found it.
Love it. Shay says a teamerage is what I'm chasing. Shay is an absolute killer in Utah. Fernando, ATM now, but I need to step it up. Or maybe not, Fernando. Maybe just own the fact that's where you're at and have the discipline to create or to consistently be adding assets so that you're not doing it and being the ATM machine at age 75, right?
Yeah, and part of that's a good spot. I'll jump back in quick. Is part of the clarity is where you want to end up at the end of this all, right? And what's great about our business is if you know where you need to end up, and you have a pretty good idea of what vehicle you want to get there with your business model, you can reverse engineer it and figure out what it's going to take. So if you say, I want to run the ATM model, but I want to be retired in 5 years, great. Let's figure out what needs to happen in order for you to retire in 5 years. Now, how many deals are you going to need to do at what profitability? And what's that going to take from you? And then you can decide, hey, am I willing to pay that price? Am I willing to work at that level for 5 years and then be done? And maybe
Yeah.
you say yes, and that can carry you through the times when it's really hard and when you're working 7 days a week once in a while because you've got a clear end date. Or maybe you say, no, I'm not willing to pay that price. What would it look like to push that out to 10 years and give myself 10 years to acquire enough assets to, again, to hit that retirement mark? Am I willing to pay that price? So just, I don't believe in commit and then figure it out. I believe in figure out what you want and then reverse engineer it and decide, are you willing to pay that price to get
What do
it?
you want for dinner? And then go get the ingredients versus opening up the fridge and
Yeah.
deciding, oh, what can I make from all of the stuff
Yeah.
that's just randomly in here right now?
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good analogy. I'm going to borrow that
And I borrowed it from, I don't even think I've ever
from
heard
Sharon.
Sharon specifically say it. I got it from Hormozy sharing what Sharon. Anyway, Joan said teamerage, and I want to connect some other points that Joel made based upon what Joan shared. Joan has a very clear vision of the niche that she is going to serve. And in fact, this afternoon, she and I are going to hop on Zoom and I will be helping her build out the marketing for her to dominate the niche that she is pursuing in her local market with the grander vision of she's going to be the example. She's going to be the testimonial, the success story. And then she can use that as a way to build a teamerage of other agents like her that want to also dominate that niche and be able to implant or transplant her proven process, her marketing, etc., into their business and build that way, right? So kudos, Joan, and hopefully
That's
this
awesome.
helped you get even more clarity around how that is going to happen and how we can make that happen. And oh, by the way, that's the kind of stuff that I love helping people implement and deploy things of that nature. And if you want to chat about any of that or to explore what it looks like to partner with us, you can get back to me or whoever invited you, it might have been James or someone else, to this session to explore what that would look like. All right. So Shay actually changed his mind. He said actually probably a hybrid of 2 and 4. I like that. Terrell said ATM definitely need clarity. This is a good, and we still have a little time here, Joel. I hope you don't mind. Aaron
Hmm.
said, can you explain the difference between, and these are, if I remember, you know what? Actually, teamerage and hybrid were the ones that you said are most closely related. She's asking specifically, can you clarify or maybe double back on the difference between a traditional team and the teamerage and how the agents are structured differently between the two, the teamerage versus the traditional team?
Yeah. In most traditional teams, you have a focus on adding as much value as you can to the agents to drive up their productivity. And then you're typically taking a higher split. So that's again, broad strokes. There's certainly lots of different ways to do a traditional team, but that's the distinction I would make. So we're adding a lot of value. We're providing leads, we're providing coaching, we've got an office space, we've got admin support or marketing support, TC support. We're trying to add as much value as we can to the agents with the goal of having them be as productive as possible. And that's our path to being profitable from each agent. So we're going to take a higher split because we're offering more value. And so when we're recruiting agents, that's usually the pitch is look at all these things we're going to do for you, and then you're going to give up a piece of your commission to us. So typically the traditional team is more focused on agent productivity. The teamerage is just focused on headcount. So you're not going to offer the same level of value in the teamerage because it's incredibly difficult to scale that. It's so expensive. So you're probably not offering a ton of leads. Some leads probably, but maybe not really high quality, expensive leads. You're not able to spend one-on-one time coaching or mentoring every agent. You're doing group coaching stuff. You have some admin support, but probably not the same level of support. And the key here is that in the teamerage model, you need to find a way to be profitable with the average agent. So the average agent who's going to do 6 to 8 deals a year, that's usually not somebody you want on your traditional team because you're providing so much value, you're not making enough money on them. But in the teamerage, you want as many average agents as you can get because you're offering less kind of value from a financial perspective. You can be profitable with those agents. So,
Joel, I'm putting you on the spot, and
yeah,
you may not be able to answer in the time we have left. But given what you just said, what would be a value proposition that you've seen successful teamerages utilize? If what you just said, so the value in a traditional team to the agent is we're going to give you all of this stuff. And in exchange for that, you're going to give us more of your commission. The teamerage, we're not going to give you as much stuff. So what's the value proposition that would mean that I would go that route versus
yeah.
the
Two
traditional team?
two main things. One is teamerages tend to lean on their broker value. So if you're at EXP, you can lean on all of the things that EXP offers and attract
Yep.
agents that way. The
Yep.
second thing is usually a brand. This is a large organization. And again, one of the reasons it's difficult to scale is because there is that kind of middle ground where you're not offering as much value, but you don't have a big enough brand yet. So you have to find a way to push through that. But the other value is usually people want to be a part of something big and well known. And so your brand and just your scale has its own value to a lot of people. And then in the teamerage, you're typically giving the agent a higher split because you're providing a little bit less value for it. So you can attract the agents who are more interested in the split than they are in the leads or the mentorship.
So for example, at EXP, and I'm just gonna be a little bit self-serving here because I'm the host and I can do that, is for the teamerage model, one of the things that you can offer someone at EXP is they can plug into FastCap at no cost. This is something that other franchises or franchises or brokerages may be charging for similar, I would say maybe not even similar because ours is really good, training and coaching and help to actually increase their production. So maybe they can break free from the average agent who's doing 6 to 8 to 10 transactions. So finding what are those things that are baked into the model or the whatever brokerage that you may be plugging into and just doing a better job of highlighting. I don't even think I do a good enough job of that when I'm talking with other agents about coming over of illuminating. It might also be healthcare, right? There are lots of
Yeah.
things that I may take for granted that we offer that by highlighting that, it would help the quote unquote average or typical agent decide what the best fit or place is for them.
Yeah, something else we see teamerages, the successful ones do at a really high level, is they have incredible resources, but they're not labor or cost intensive. For example, we have our team leader, who almost every team leader was once a very successful real estate agent. So we've got an incredible training library for you to plug
Yeah,
into, but
yeah.
you have to do it yourself. Somebody's not gonna sit with you and take you through this training. But if you're motivated in our teamerage, you've got access to a ton of value. It's just not going to be, you're not getting one-on-one mentorship with the team leader.
I'm thinking about this or through this for myself personally because the part of my process in getting more clear and having clarity about the business model for myself locally and then expanding out is very much focused on working with real estate investors. And the way, two examples of that, specifically for me, traditional team versus teamerage. Traditional team, I create the relationship, the rapport, and the opportunity with the investor, and I hand that off to a production partner for a split. In the teamerage, I don't give you the actual client. I show you how to find them and what to do to turn that person from someone I don't know, I haven't met, into someone who's ready, willing, and able to go look at a property or properties with me and write an offer. And in that case, you can have more of the split because you're doing more of the work. Like you're owning more of the process, but I'll show you exactly how to do it. I'm just not going to do it for you. So it's almost do it with me versus do it for you or completely DIY.
Yeah. I see Richard's question on ISAs.
Yeah.
Did we skip any?
I think we're good. I think that's the most recent. We got 3 in there and those are all the most recent. Yep. And then we're going to come in for a landing here in a couple of minutes, but we'll
Okay.
address these.
I'm going to give you a quick but not super satisfying answer, Richard,
Yeah.
which is they can fit in any of the models. You just need to structure it in a way that makes sense for your model. What I mean by that is In a traditional team where you're already taking a high split, maybe you're not charging extra to the agents for when they get an ISA deal. Maybe in a teamerage model, hey, it's an extra 10% off of your split when you get an ISA nurtured.
And for
You
those that
have to
can't
figure out
see
what it
this
makes
or
sense.
watching after, Richard's questions was, how do ISAs fit into each model? Yep.
Yeah, so they can fit in each one. You have to map out, do the math on it, and say, all right, if I want to offer an ISA to our agents, what do I have to charge them in order to
Yeah.
make that work? Can I give that away for free as a value add and still make money? Great. Do I need to charge a higher split
Yeah.
for that? So I think it can fit anywhere. Another great thing about virtual assistants, I worked for Sphere Rocket, a virtual assistant company for years. You can get really good virtual assistant ISAs, and that opens up a new level of the ISA game if you do that, because you can pay them so much less than a US based ISA.
Sure. What commission splits work in each model? That is anything can work, not anything, but there are so many ways that you can structure that with sliding scales and so forth. That is a 401 level version of this conversation, but it
I can
is
give one.
something that is you really have to think through. Sorry, Joel,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I would just give you the one sentence answer for Don is figure out the kind of agents that you want on your team, figure out what they want, figure out how much it'll cost to give them what they want, and then figure out how much you have to charge them to
Yeah.
make it all work.
Yeah. Joel, this was
Thanks.
I'm going to go back and watch this several times to like I got several things that I missed the first time. Production partner. I must have missed the book recommendation. You probably mentioned it, but I might have been distracted.
I'm not sure. I've only given this presentation twice now.
Oh
Once at
wow.
the
Okay.
event
So maybe
and once to you. So it might be
beautiful.
changing.
I feel honored. I've seen it twice. I'm 2 for 2. Love it. Love it. Joel, you had it up there, but email is joel at
Right.
growthcentric.com.
Joel at the Growth Centric.
Thegrowthcentric.com. Joel at thegrowthcentric.com. That email is in the chat. If you're watching this after the fact and you can't find the slide deck or any of the information promised, etc., drop a comment, DM me, text me. I'm happy to provide that for you. And if you're thinking about making a move or need some help on clarity as far as the niche or the marketing, etc., that's the kind of stuff that I love digging into and helping folks make an informed best decision for their business. So, Joel, thank you so much. Joan, I
Thank
look
you
forward to
guys.
later this afternoon. And James, thanks for popping on and inviting some great folks on as well. And we'll see everybody next week. Next week is going to be, we're going to have a short presentation about a service available at no cost that can help more of your interested buyers qualify to purchase. And then I think we're just going to do some masterminding. I'm just going to share some stuff that's working for me to generate more conversations and convert more of my contacts into contracts. We'll dig into that. And then tomorrow, we're doing a workshop or a boot camp. I'm calling the Off Market Matchmaker Masterclass. And if you want a link to that, just shoot me a DM or text me. My number's right there, 717-571-0456. Celeste, since you asked, I'll drop it in the comments real quick, and then we'll go ahead and let everybody some clarity around which model and make the best of the rest of the day. Joe, thanks again. Appreciate you hopping on. And let me just grab this link here for everybody. Should have had that at the ready, and I need a better short link for it. I'll drop that there and see everybody next week, if not tomorrow. Thanks, Joel.